It was a Friday morning in May 2017, and across the world, computer screens were turning red. In hospitals throughout the United Kingdom, doctors watched helplessly as patient records vanished behind a locked screen and a countdown timer. In Spain, one of the country's largest telecom companies scrambled to shut down its own network before the infection could spread further. In Germany, train station display boards flickered and died. In Russia, banks and government ministries went dark. Within hours, more than 200,000 computers across over 150 countries had been struck by the same piece of malicious software, and nobody outside a small circle of hackers understood exactly what was happening or why it was spreading so fast. The malware was called WannaCry, and its origin story began years earlier, inside one of the most secretive intelligence agencies on Earth. The United States National Security Agency had spent years developing a powerful hacking tool that exploited a flaw in Microsoft Windows, a vulnerability so effective it could spread from one unpatched computer to another automatically, without any human clicking a malicious link or opening an infected file. It was the kind of tool intelligence agencies dream about: silent, self-propagating, and almost invisible. The NSA gave it a name. They called it EternalBlue. For years, EternalBlue stayed hidden, a closely guarded secret used for surveillance and intelligence gathering. But secrets like this rarely stay buried forever. In the spring of 2017, a mysterious group calling themselves the Shadow Brokers did something that sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity world. They leaked EternalBlue to the public, posting the exploit online for anyone to find, download, and use. Microsoft moved quickly once the leak became public, releasing a security patch that closed the vulnerability. In theory, this should have ended the threat before it ever became one. In practice, patches only work if people install them. Across the world, countless hospitals, businesses, and government agencies were still running outdated systems, some of which hadn't been updated in years. The vulnerability remained wide open, and somewhere, someone was preparing to use it. That someone, according to investigators from multiple governments, was a hacking group known as Lazarus Group, widely believed to operate on behalf of North Korea's intelligence services. Using the leaked EternalBlue exploit as a delivery mechanism, they built a new kind of weapon, ransomware, that could spread on its own, worming its way from computer to computer across a network without needing anyone to make a mistake. They called it WannaCry. On the morning of May 12th, 2017, the attack began. Once WannaCry infected a single unpatched computer, it didn't stop there. It scanned for other vulnerable machines on the same network and infected those too, then moved on to the next and the next, spreading with a speed that alarmed even experienced cybersecurity professionals. Every infected machine displayed the same message: your files have been encrypted, and if you want them back, you'll need to pay a ransom in Bitcoin within a matter of days, or lose access to everything forever. For Britain's National Health Service, the consequences were immediate and severe. Doctors lost access to patient records. Some hospitals had to cancel scheduled surgeries. Ambulances carrying emergency patients were diverted to hospitals that hadn't yet been hit, because the ones nearby simply couldn't process new admissions. For a healthcare system built around split-second decisions, WannaCry had introduced chaos into some of the most fragile moments imaginable. As the malware tore across the globe, a 22-year-old cybersecurity researcher in England was spending what he thought would be a quiet day off. His name was Marcus Hutchins, and online, he went by the name Malware Tech. When news broke about the scale of the attack, Hutchins began digging through a sample of the WannaCry code, trying to understand exactly how it worked. Buried in the malware, he noticed something unusual. Before executing its ransomware payload, WannaCry made a request to a long, nonsensical web address, almost like it was checking whether that address existed. If the domain came back as unregistered, the malware continued its attack. If the domain was somehow active, the malware simply stopped. It looked like a mistake left in by the malware's own creators, some kind of failsafe or testing mechanism they had never removed. Hutchins didn't fully understand what would happen if he registered the domain himself, but as part of his usual research routine, he did it anyway, paying less than the price of a sandwich to claim a web address that would end up making global headlines. Almost immediately, the spread of WannaCry began to slow, then stop entirely. Hutchins had unknowingly triggered what security researchers now call a kill switch, a hidden off button built directly into the malware's code. Within hours, a 22-year-old working from his childhood bedroom had done what governments, corporations, and cybersecurity firms around the world had been unable to do. He had stopped one of the fastest-spreading cyberattacks in history, almost entirely by accident. The financial toll was staggering, with some estimates placing global losses in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and others suggesting the true economic impact, when accounting for lost productivity and recovery costs, reached into the billions. And Marcus Hutchins, the accidental hero who had stopped it all? His story took an unexpected turn just months later. While attending a cybersecurity conference in Las Vegas, he was arrested by the FBI, not for anything related to WannaCry, but for allegations tied to a separate piece of malware he had allegedly helped create years earlier as a teenager. The hero who had saved countless hospitals and businesses from further damage was now facing federal charges of his own. A reminder that in the world of cybersecurity, the line between researcher and criminal is sometimes measured only by intent and timing. Looking back, the WannaCry attack remains one of the starkest illustrations of a simple, uncomfortable truth. The tools built for secrecy and control rarely stay contained. A vulnerability discovered by intelligence agencies for their own purposes became a weapon used against hospitals, banks, and ordinary people who had nothing to do with international espionage. And in the end, it wasn't a government agency or a corporation that stopped it. It was one tired researcher, registering a domain out of curiosity, who happened to save the internet almost by accident.